Yes, sir. You are clearly audible.
But your voice is not coming to me.
You are audible, sir. You can continue.
So I can continue.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think my program is as scheduled. It is delayed by 20 minutes or so, but let it be as it may be. Thank you, Mr. Datta, Amulya Bora, Parul Bhuiya ma'am, Daisy Rani, Mridula, and all other, uh, organizers of this webinar. I must compliment you. And someone from Guwahati professor was telling me that you have started liking my state. Then I told her that it is so beautiful state that it is very difficult to not like Assam and people from Assam. So Northeast is the origin of India, and getting connected to you again and again it's a matter of pride and happiness for me. And I must compliment gentlemen and the organizers team for having selected an insightful topic called positive psychology. I'm sure some of the speakers that those who have spoken before me must have deliberated in detail what positive psychology is, what positive psychology is not. But I will also try to briefly discuss about the origin of positive psychology and the areas that is being considered and included in the realm of positive psychology, and how positive psychology has acquired its importance at the world level, at the national level, and all other walks of society. Because, valuable insights of positivity have been derived from the trenches of life's hardship and suffering. So, whenever we are in a difficult mess, like the one which we are facing now, and when we all are, difficult phases of our life, and we keep, experiencing difficulties, what to do, not to do. We are in a state of dilemma. We are in a state of, ambivalence. So positive psychology is an attempt to move from, is an attempt to move from, the state of psychic anarchy to a state of psychic hygiene. So the deficient model of psychology, it always dealt with the subjects like depression, panic, helplessness. Seligman, the Martin Seligman, who is considered as the founder of this positive psychology, he was also himself a researcher in the field. His primary research was in the area of helplessness. And there he got this insight that the discipline of psychology is not doing justice with the people, because, dealing with helplessness, then he borrowed this term. I must tell you, the founder of positive psychology, Martin Seligman, is not the conceptualizer of this concept of positive psychology. He derived it from the Maslow's concept of, self transformation, and that dealt with, and he borrowed the concept of positive psychology from Abraham Maslow. And this power of, devotional practice, counting blessings, gratitude, and forgiveness, this was earlier on highlighted by Abraham Maslow. Am I audible, Parul Bhuiya mein?
Sir, you are clearly audible.
Perfectly all right, or
Yes, sir.
is it okay? All right.
Okay.
So in the year 1991, he Seligman discovered that learned helplessness should be converted into hopefulness, and his book came in 1991, Learned Optimism. Learn Optimism came in 2002, and then Learn Optimism, and the other book that came is that was that of Authentic Happiness. With this, he insisted on, he also insisted on value neutral purity of the research. So positive psychology gives the impression that you can be well, we can be happy by thinking and doing right things. So this deficient model of dealing with clinical aspects of depression, anxiety, all other things were being substituted with more positive aspects when you are talking about the positive aspects. In general, if you talk to the people who are textbook centric, they will talk of major concept that comprises the theory of positive psychology. It is that of hope, optimism, resilience, self-efficacy, forgiveness, altruism, courage, and wisdom. So this is also called psychic efficacy. So earlier people were talking of economic capital, the healthiest and the wealthiest of the nations and the most powerful of the nations are the one who are economically powerful countries. Then come the concept of social capital, that people who have a lot of social dominance and social power will be the most. Now we talk of in psychology psychological efficacy or psychological capital. So psychological capital comprises of hope, optimism, resilience, and efficacy. So these are the four concepts that are very integral to the concept of positive psychology. But positive psychology is not limited to these four concepts. So that you must understand that it involves with the whole range of positive activities that you can do at any given point of time. Like I was listening to the previous speaker, and there was a question from the audience who was saying that if you are 24/7 surrounded by the negative people, what to do? How can you be positive? Yes, even if you are surrounded by the negative people, then you can change your perception, your attitude, your optimism that, okay, these negative people will become positive by your association with positive activities and positive set of behaviors. Obviously, it will not take place overnight. It will not place in this 1 hour discussion. If that was the possibility, then this whole of country and the whole of the world would have become positive. It is not like that. So it is not a mechanical process. It is a process reality. So how do you perceive your day-to-day reality? What is your orientation towards life? What is your approach in life? What are your bigger visions in life? So what is the degree of enthusiasm? Like Mr. Datta is organizing every week some seminar. He's also doing some good work, and there are people who may not be doing so much of good work. So how do you engage yourself in positive engagements and meaningful engagements that that comprises your day-to-day activities? In the culmination of the day, you realize that small things. Today you participated in this webinar, you were busy in your college life, you were also doing helping some poor people. So all the small things in the day, and when you come for sleep in the night, then you think that I have done all meaningful things. At the same time, you can be engaged in if doing acts of scolding somebody, not doing so very good work, fighting with somebody, then filing some case in the court of law. So whole range of activity is that I have problem with my boyfriend, I have problem with my family, I have problem. So this is called problem orientation. And there is another set that is called solution orientation. Okay, he has not said talk to me nicely, but still I respect his view, and I'm sure that gradually he will realize that it is not that I am his or her enemy. So if you try to develop so mindfulness, then there are activities that can emerge from the same situation. So you can take it in binaries that it is either or you can think that it has multiplicity of opportunity that can be derived from the same situation. So my first take is that positive psychology is not talking only of hope, optimism, courage, resilience and self-efficacy. These are important factors. But if you are all possessed with, but if you are in a surrounding where nobody is supporting you, whole environment, then obviously where will you experiment with those ideas? So you need a compassionate environment. You need an enthusiastic environment. You need a positive, environment where people are engaged in positive set of behavior. So your environmental aspects also play an important role, and you have anticipatory enthusiasm. So people are, either, depressed set of what to do. I am doing only this job. I could not become this in my life. I could not get all people, even if they are doing, their works in agricultural activities, even they are doing work in a very small shop, even they are doing any work, then they are feeling that, okay, I'm doing it and I'm doing it with my passion. I'm doing with my, connectivity. I'm doing with my full engagement. Then you will realize even a fruit seller is there. If he's selling the fruits that, eating my fruits, people will become healthy, and somebody is thinking that he should take it from me and he should not feel healthy. So if he is transferring his responsibility and care and consciousness of positivity, then he will be very happy by doing that, so enthusiasm plane. And if you do that work in a kind of meaningful way, then you feel enthusiastic about. If you don't do it in a meaningful way, then you feel it very depressed or unhappy about. Altruism is also very much emphasized in the realm of positive psychology, which means that helping behavior, though it is at times it costs you, that you are helping a poor person, then it takes your time, it takes sometimes your money also, it takes time, sometimes you have also to negotiate with your family members that why don't you do your work. But sometimes, this type of altruism one is behavioral altruism, which refers to helping behavior that is either very costly to the helper or conveys no self benefit for the helper. So there is another concept of psychological altruism. It is a motivation to increase the welfare of another person and as an end in itself. So there is a concept of empathy altruism hypothesis. Feeling empathy for a person needs and evokes altruistic motive to increase the person's welfare. Authentic happiness. So we are all talking about happiness, So optimism. These are, fundamental concepts in the field of positive psychology, but don't treat them that it is a mechanical reality. It is not found in the Golaghat, Kumargaon or Guwahati Police Bazaar. It is not found so. It is a process reality that comes through the interaction of the people with each other in the societal setup, in the contextual circumstances, in the cultural milieu that we all live with. So it's not that it is an isolated concept that we, buy it from somewhere or you adopt it, you do a training on positive psychology case and you become positive. It is not going to. So you have to change the life circumstances that you are faced with. And everywhere there are positive, negative, circumstances which you have to take the mastery of. You have to first derive the ownership that, okay, I am the owner of these circumstances of my life circumstantial reality. And I ought to change this. And if you ought to change this, then I told you that you ought to follow a degree of enthusiasm, a degree of sense of empathy, a degree of, sense of adaptability. It is the capacity to adjust, oneself readily to the changed circumstances. Today you are in some place, tomorrow you are transferred to some other place in government job or in private job. So you have to understand, then you will see that you have two options. So if I am transferred for, which is, there is no provision of transfer in Delhi University, I must tell you. But if at all I get the opportunity, my first choice will be Guwahati or Assam, Kaziranga area, because these remote places, I will get the opportunity to connect with. Or I have other choice that I feel depressed and I think that I am not going to achieve. So the people, the language, the culture, which I am not knowing in this place, I get that opportunity. So you have 2, 3 or multiple options. You can, adapt with this, and those positive psychology prescribes that you should be adaptable to the changes that is taking place, because most permanent thing in our life circumstances is what? Is change. You can stop everything, but you cannot stop change. So how do you adapt with them, with the changed life circumstance? Earlier you were school stage, now you are college stage, now you are college teacher stage, now you will be in a different stage. So all the stages. Now if you are regress to your childhood stages, that I have to eat chocolates every day and I'll be unhappy, then you will be unhappy. But if you adapt to the change reality that I am teacher and I will share that innocence with of the children, of the students that I am taking care of, I am telling you, you will derive a lot of satisfaction and lot of enthusiasm, and anticipatory enthusiasm that you may take note of is a very important, that I'll have my day, fabulous day. Okay. Now I am waiting for 4 o'clock. I can have a depressed outlook, depressed, thinking, oh, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I have to come. Apurva Datta will tell me that, okay, sir, stop it, and things like that. Or I am very much enthusiastic that, okay, I'll be again meeting to the people that I am trying to share my understanding. So I have talked about anticipatory enthusiasm. I have talked about, happiness. I have talked about altruism. I have talked about empathy. But most important thing that I have talked about in the terms of, in the terminology of, in the parlance of, in the conceptualization of, in the understanding of positive psychology, that you have to accept the change. You have to have high adaptability for the changes, because changes are much more permanent thing. There can be it will, the situations and circumstances, the reality before this webinar was different, and the energy level of this discussion, it can become, it can vary from the previous speaker to this speaker and to the subsequent. It will never remain the same. So you have to sorry. So these kind of things that you have to understand. Then we have authentic appreciation of beauty and excellence, which is also an aspect, one of the virtues and character strength that leads to transcendence. So you appreciate about yourself, but don't appreciate all the time yourself. You also appreciate Parul Bhuiya madam, you also appreciate Deji Rani, you also appreciate the people from Assam, from Datta Sahab, Amulya Bora. So you see the beauty in everybody. Don't try to make your sense of appreciation obsessed with yourself. It will create negativity. It will create depression. It will create so many limitations and bondage that you are not getting out of. So if you start observing that ability in you, that you see some beauty, even the person who is driving a rickshaw, even a person who is an auto driver, see that how cheerfully he is taking you to the places. So you appreciate that reality. Don't think that you are the boss and you are the, because you are paying him, he is also doing a service. So this reciprocity of relationships is very much appreciated in the concepts of uh, positive psychology. Am I making sense, Amit Gupta ji? Are we together in this journey or we are going apart? Yes, Bhuiya madam, are you listening? Are you all listening to me or not?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir, we are listening.
Apurva Datta Sahab.
Yeah. I'm
So that
your lecture, sir. Very thanks.
okay, sir. Thank you. So
Okay, welcome, sir.
another important aspect in the positive psychology approach, which you may not be listening as being agreeableness. The factors, the big five factors of personality, which is called neo five factors. Neuroticism, extroversion, openness to experience. So neo five consciousness and the factors of agreeableness. It is the one of the hallmark of agreeableness is low experience of anger, and expression of hostility is also associated with reduced vulnerability. So if you don't agree with anybody, okay, so high agreeableness leads to high job satisfaction, high job performance, high level of satisfaction. So all these things, agreeableness, that means I may disagree with you at some point, but I will have to derive some agreeableness with you. That is how this is a participants number is 156 in this webinar. So we must have some degree of agreeableness. That is how we are connecting to this webinar online webinar. So it is not if you all disagree, you do not agree, you do not want to agree. So agreeableness is so it's as a personality trait is also considered as a very important hallmark of your satisfaction and performance. So account of how people arrive at a particular attribution. How do you? So something I don't do very well. But if you the attributional style also makes you happy or unhappy. So positive psychology also talks that how individual responds to events. For example, a student, who earns poor grade in the examination may attribute this outcome to various aspects, that my teacher did not taught me, or the school environment was not so good, so I could not do well. Or he can also attribute that it is my constitutional fault that I cannot do well in the examination. So how how do you attribute? So this will also affect your overall emotional reactions. Attribution sets also particular kinds of feelings. So how do you attribute your factors of success, cause, and effect? So some things you could not achieve, so you should not blame yourself. You should not be guilty. You try to discover the other roots. So if you blame guilty and you start deriving attribution, you start attributing attributions that okay, it is my fault that I cannot do well in my life. So that kind of situation will not take you anywhere. So that attribution style also results in the satisfaction or dissatisfaction of people. So engagements in life is indicator of happiness. A life that pursues engagement, involvement, absorption in work, love, and leisure. So attention. So whatever you are doing, as I told you, so your engagement, involvement, and absorption with that work. So if you are teaching, I'm with you in the webinar, for me the most important thing happening in this world is the webinar with taking place at this. But if I'm thinking that I am doing this webinar, what about the American webinar that was supposed to take place? Then I will neither enjoy this nor enjoy that. So you leave the moment of your life in a way, engaged way, in a positive way. Only then you can feel satisfied, and that is how you can derive the authenticity of happiness. Because that motivates behavior for its own sake. That is called intrinsic motivation. You are not getting guided by how many people are doing this. Some of may not be very serious about the webinar because they have some works to do with. So they have to go somewhere, they have to catch the train. So if I start thinking all their propositions, I may not be in a situation to concentrate and enjoy my engagement of being present in this webinar. So authentic happiness, and there is a concept of autonomy that refers not only to the basic need, but also the process of regulating one's behavior with a sense of choice. And this autonomy is independent from and not relying on others. So I have some autonomy to be with myself. Okay, I am enjoying the rhythm and music of my own life. It is not dependent upon so many other factors. So whatever I am doing, it's not necessary that certain number of people confirm me on my social media. Then only I am happy. If they do not, so I am happy with myself. See, there a degree of autonomy. Even your children needs that autonomy. So don't try to do that. So let them, this enjoy their autonomy. Everybody wants to be satisfied, to be positive. You need a certain degree of autonomy in your way of functioning, in your way of your dealing. So balancing is not a mechanical effect. That these two, which one is heavier, which one is no. They are very difficult to balance. It is very complex. The intrapersonal, interpersonal, and social aspects. They are all, interfering with each other. And how do you derive a balance? That also determines your happiness and your positivity. So sometimes your personal interest, sometimes, your near and dear friend is calling you for a lunch or dinner. He has come all the way, from abroad or any, outside place. You want to have a lunch or dinner. Now you have to take your classes also in the college. Now you have some, home activities also at home. So how do you balance between this? So if you ignore all three are competing interests, which is of interest to you, you don't want to avoid them. You don't want to neglect it. And at the same time, it is not possible to do all these things at the same time. So do that in your competing activities, you try to develop a balance that, okay, in the night you can have dinner, in the daytime you can have your class activities, in the morning you can have your home activities. So you accumulate, you accumulate your processes of balancing the interpersonal that leads to competence in activities. So if you balance, so people who are very focused, who are very high performing people, who are very creative, they balance their activities with a single-minded pursuit of creative ideas in an analytical category or of a leadership goal, which often lead to an identifiable achievement. So, for example, Einstein's activity of superior intellect, Roosevelt's leadership. So interpersonal goals for balancing strengths involve interest and harmonizing self-interest with others' interests. Harmonizing your self-interest with other interests. And the more larger is your canvas. So sometimes people will say that it is me and my family, that is all about my life. But if you are able to relate and balance with a larger number of families, larger number of people, larger number of societal existences, so then you build, short-term effects of your positive emotions start accruing, which is called broaden and build theory of positive emotions. Positive emotions that you bring through altruism, through enthusiasm, through positivity, through happiness, through, process reality of day-to-day activities, which I am trying to emphasize, that positive reality is not kept somewhere. It is embedded in our socio-cultural milieu, and it develops, at day-to-day basis. Every activity, if you are driving a car, suppose you are driving a car from Delhi to, to Mumbai, but if you are, thinking that, okay, this is a work for me, your happiness degree. And if you think that, okay, I'll be traveling all over India and seeing new places, then your experience will be multiplied. And if your experience will be multiplied in positive way, then you will, express positive emotions. And positive emotions broaden the range of thoughts, actions, which helps in building enduring resources. So if you drive that car happily, then chances are very high that your positivity and positive emotions over experienced throughout the course of time, days, months, years. If you are sharing that positivity, then over a period of time, then then your regular experiences of positive uh, experiences of positive emotions contribute to happier and satisfying relationships, better coping skills, greater success in work, and even improved physical health and longevity. So those people who they do work on day-to-day basis, on professional work also they do happily, you will have better life satisfaction, a good healthy lifestyle, and more success in it. Because somebody will give you an advice that you be arrogant with your subordinates and you will achieve big success. But I am telling you, you will be a big failure. It will be a disaster. You will become successful for few days, but after in the long run, you will not. And you will be harming your own interest also, interest of the other. So if you have to, create the longevity in your own personal style, in your professional work, then you have to adopt a range of positive emotions. So if you trust trust is also an important concept in the realm of positive psychology. If you trust your fellow members, I am sure most of them will reciprocate in the same way. But if you distrust them, if you are behaving very rudely with them, you are very behaving with them, I am sure that you may get temporary results, but in the long run, your organization will not flourish well. It will not improve in its performance and functioning. Dukh or pain has two aspects. The first is the fact of change, which is inevitable, and second is the one's inner life behavior is determined by karmic forces. So change is inevitable. Somebody was also talking about karmic theory. So many of your activities, as you know, from Eastern perspective, is a result of your karmic activities, karmic consciousness, karma theory of productivity. So humans are vulnerable to dukh or means pain because of humans are a bundle of what? We have variety of urges. We have variety of desires. We have varieties of agitations, passions, needs. In a world of cravings, we want to, be doing so many things in a short span. We have urges for what? Food. We have urges for drinks. We have urges for sexuality, companionship, to escape pain, boredom, irritation, and so forth. So we have variety of cravings. Cravings, have three main ego. Biological cravings, ego, social and stimulation needs, and cultural needs. So many types of cravings we are surrounded with in our day-to-day activity, and we want to satisfy them. So the practice for attaining liberation as a path requires wisdom. Wisdom is also very much emphasized in the process of positive psychology approach. Ethics and inner practice. Wisdom is understanding, understanding, right understanding. Ethics is right speech, right actions, and it practice right energy, right mindfulness, and right meditation. So these are, also suggested from the Buddhism perspective. Life is full of suffering, and suffering comes from our cravings. And cravings we cannot, completely overcome, but we can definitely manage it for, for our happiness purposes. And, we cannot have ignorance about the so many things, but we can certainly try to control them to the maximum possible level that we can. So craving for happiness necessarily causes us to fear or reject anything that causes unhappiness. If you think that all the time, morning to night, you will have a happier route, it is not possible. So you'll have to assign some space for some difficulties also. If you have no difficulties, you have no charm of happiness. If you don't study, if you don't do work hard, and if you achieve everything, just like that, you will not have that happiness because you have not derived that because of your hard work. So, attachment to possessions and achievement invariably leads to disappointment and disillusion. So if you think that one day theory of success in life, that one day I will become a PhD scholar and best in the India, best in the world, and then I will become an intellectual. So you think that every day you are doing and completing a PhD. So if that is the approach, otherwise what you will bring in your life, you will bring disillusionment, which you will be achieving also and you will be escaping also. That means you will be that failure will be your end product, not the achievement. So experience in entirety as the roots of success. So experience of failure is also dependent upon your perceiving of the thing in a particular manner. And the truth of liberation comes from suffering is attained by transformation of our cravings and aversions through enlightenment. So there is, if we have cravings and aversion, then it can take place, it can transform through the process of enlightenment. The truth of enlightenment can be achieved according to perspective of Buddhism. I am telling you that you must be mindful that all the theories that is being highlighted in the realm of positive psychology has been highlighted in a bigger detail in the theories and practice of Buddhism. So the concept of positive psychology is not something very original in nature. But what they have done, they have brought it in a presentable way. So that is their credit, and I must credit the popularizers. But it is also being popularized. But it's not that these ideas were lacking in our realm. So Buddhism was talking about eightfold path of enlightenment, and that comes into three categories of morality, meditation, and wisdom. So mindful meditation, which has been centuries ago, is also highlighted by the realm of positive psychology, which is exercised in the process of enlightenment. It cultivates awareness and concentration while being non-judgmental. So not being judgmental is also one of the criteria of the positive psychology. There is a concept called calling. Calling was Max Weber claimed that Kelvin's interpretation of calling planted the seeds of modern capitalism by generating a Protestant work ethic that drove a movement of individuals' pursuit of success. Individuals' pursuit of success, that means you are very much trying to become successful, and that was considered as, according to spiritual and religious perspectives, a calling is an invitation that the person may choose to accept or not. Pursuing the calling is cast primarily as a moral responsibility or duty to serving a higher power or greater good. So that means you are trying to do something extraordinary for the society or for the. So calling, however, the pursuit of calling is more oriented towards self-exploration and self-fulfillment. So you are doing, the salient dimensions of calling in modern research involves around it as a source of intrinsic enjoyment, as a means to serving at a greater good. So whenever you are trying to, search for some greater meanings in life, it is called calling. So as I have mentioned to you, that calling is also an important concept that is used in the realm of positive psychology. So an enlightened view of self, karuna, compassion is very important in it. Now you will see that compassion has been described in Buddhism in greater detail. It is also described in Bhagavad Gita in greater detail. So positive psychology is talking about it. That means it is re-emphasizing what has been talked a lot before. So enlightened view of the self leads to compassion, and wisdom leads one to surrender ego to be part of the larger self. The practice of love and compassion leads to wisdom. Healing and happiness are the byproducts of enlightenment and compassion rather than the result of the worldly success. Worldly success is not a very good guarantor of our happiness and enlightenment. Rather, enlightenment and compassion leads us to, to be a stage of non-detachment with the things and removal and overcoming the ego aspect. Collective well-being. So if you are synergy, group energy, so if you are well and all your group members are well, this is also important aspect that can also be related with the sense of satisfaction or happiness, our collective dimensions of the self. So we have our individual dimensions of the I'm happy at my stage, but all other people around me are also happy. That gives you better satisfaction. Compassion differs from, compassion is different from sympathy, pity, empathy, altruism, and compassionate love. Empathy stops short of the will to action and effort that compassion encompasses. Compassion makes it explicit the motivation and concern which stems from a sense of interdependence. So compassion is an interdependent quality that whatever you are doing and directs response to alleviate, to alleviate the suffering of others. So when you are trying to do something, to alleviate the suffering, that means you are in a state of karuna or compassion. And compassion is when you are trying to overcome the suffering of other people, then it is called compassion. There is also a concept of confidence, that I am very confident. And confidence and arrogance. You understand this? I am confident that I will be meeting you all with a positive sense of mind. But I am arrogant, they all will meet me, I will not meet them. So this is arrogance. So confidence is a sweet spot between arrogance.
भैया बेटा इसको
What
लीव
is this?
कैसे करेंगे?
Confidence is a sweet spot between arrogance and hopelessness. I mean the willingness to invest time, money, emotional energy, or other resources. So confidence is your, hunch. You have this ability, or they have that feeling that okay, I will do this work. I will participate in this. I will achieve this work, this goal. So it is a self-belief. It is a self, esteem that okay, I am meant for doing such type of good things. So confidence is also treated as a positive psychology concept. Secondly, there is also next. It is also a consciousness at the higher level, when person is able to transform to the level of transcendence. That whenever you are transforming your level of consciousness to the higher level of transcendence, then you are also able to relate with the supreme self that you can realize, but it is not quantifiable. So again, talking about optimism, pluralism, hope, efficacy, happiness, these are terms that is very much marketed also in the Western concept, but there are other concepts like cultural pluralism. So cultural pluralism is distinct from cultural diversity, in that the cultural pluralism refers only to the representation of the people of different cultures, representation of the peoples of different cultures residing in same locale. The cultural pluralism frees people to practice their way of life without under pressure to assimilate into a majority culture, or to suffer the loss of their own culture. So whenever you are in a place where you are in a minority, but if you think that your quality are being not suffocated, but it is being supported by others' presence. So it is a concept of cultural pluralism. Cultural dialogue provides knowledge of practice of different cultures, fosters, suppose Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, all are, coexisting in Jainism, Buddhism, all sets of people are coexisting in India. So it should not be that one set of people are being, feeling discriminated or feeling, isolated or feeling, suppressed because of the presence of others. Rather, they should benefit from your presence. It fosters reflections about one's cultural practices. Okay, how these people are doing. Even we should do all such good things. So it should relate with them. It should empower your presence. Cultural, pluralism should empower the coexistence of different communities existing and residing together. By participating in the conversation and pluralism, people are taking responsibility for their role in the future of humanity. So if I am your way or you are my way, and both of us are benefiting and many of us are, so personality traits with no moral weight, kindness and teamwork are morally valued. So kindness and teamwork. So these are the moral values that is also very much, character strengths, character strengths like feelings of, action for others, teamwork, are moral, wisdom, courage, humanity, justice, temperance. All these are the, character strengths that has been found to be values in action that can relate to the participatory equality, equality. There is a concept of emotional, asymmetry, emotional symmetry and emotional asymmetry. Emotional asymmetry refers to the imbalance between negative and positive emotions. Negative emotions narrow down our perspective, whereas positive emotions broaden our horizons. So whenever the negative emotions, make us more stressful, positive emotions make us more happy. And some of the best evidence for emotional creativity comes from, historical and cultural differences in emotional syndromes. Emotional creativity. So positive psychology, the crux of positive psychology is that it is not a permanent and fixed aspect. So yesterday you were a person with negative, orientation. Today you can become a person with positive orientation. So it can be learned. So helplessness and helpfulness, both of them can be learned. So a person with positive positive psychology interventions can lead to the changes of behavior from the school level, from work-life balance, from the organization level, but any way. So positive psychology has implications that it is, implemented in a good way, and if people start following that, perspective of positive psychology, then it can, inculcate and cultivate very positive set of emotions, and that is, very much required for our emotional creativity, positive emotions, and all such type of activities also relates with our individual well-being, social well-being, and community well-being. So there is a concept of existential positive psychology. Existential positive psychology, EPP, the existentialism theory, propounded by Viktor Frankl, the meaning in life. So building authentic relationships and belonging to a supportive community. So you cannot be happy or in an island of yourself. You can be happy, or unhappy in relationship with others. So Buber's model of I-thou existential encounter represents one of the promising ways to open up each other authentically and build bridges across the barriers that separates us. So many, bridges that separate, us and them. That Samsi Ali Sheikh is different from me and I am different from him, or he is different. So these are all created barriers. And these created barriers, if you have promising ways to open up, then they will say, oh dear, I was misunderstanding you. You are like me only, and you are like me. But when you start perceiving them in terms of categories, in terms of us and them, then you also describe them, you also characterize them in terms of stereotypes and prejudices, which is what is not required. So existential positive psychology is talks about existential encounter, one of the promising ways to open up each other's authentically. So if you share with some friend being a room partner in your hostel life, then you see that both of you are together, both of you have so many similarity. But when you perceive them with a difference, then what you see that, oh, he's different, I am different. So that differences start collapsing into merging of identities in collectivities. Community is a powerful antidote to isolation anxiety. So if you are isolated, then your community sense is sacrificed, and if for creating a powerful community well-being, we need self-sacrifice to build a positive community. It involves civil virtues, that we respect each other's feelings, we respect social norms of each other's faiths, we respect the diversity of the persons that we have with us. So collective, it also leads to collective coping. So if you are together, collective activism and collective well-being also leads to collective coping, and adaptability and flexibility play an important role in this state. There is a concept of flourishing. It is a state of positive mental health, which is also supported by high emotional vitality. Flow is a subjective state. People report when they are completely involved in something to the point of forgetting. So I am with you this evening, talking about I am completely with you, or I am partly with you, I am nowhere with you. So this defines the cycle of flow. So you can acquire any stage where I am forgetting that where I started at 420 or 520, I don't know. Okay, this is an indication of flow. But if you are always seeking the time, okay, what time I have completed, what time it is going, that means you are doing a mechanical work, and it will begin somewhere, it will end somewhere. I'm not telling you that you don't care for the time, but if you are in a state of flow, the person who will say that, okay, mom, I'm going to play football for 1 hour, they will always come late. If the child is going to play for 15 minutes, they will come in, because they are in the state of flow. They're enjoying. They forget the time. They forget even fatigue, that he was not supposed to do so much of hard work or physical work, everything else, but they are lost in the engagement of that activity. It is called flow. So you are right in the work. You lose your sense of time. You are completely enraptured. You are completely caught up in what you are doing. This is called a state of flow. So Maslow also talked about peak experiences, and we also talk in positive psychology this flow experiences, and White's theory of affectance motivation. This is also merging of action and awareness. This is merging of action and awareness is also called, described as flow experiences. Then another topic that is very important to be discussed is folk wisdom.
Sir,
Folk wisdom. Yes.
sorry, sir. Sir, actually, the time we are reaching the time.
So
schedule,
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Okay, sir. Okay, you just conclude.
Okay, 5 minutes. I'll conclude. Okay, I was always also conclude. I was mindful of the time. I think I had started 4:20 and I thought 5:20. So I don't know. But you don't send me Datta Sahib strict time routine. That is a big problem. Yeah. So I am talking about folk wisdom. Folk wisdom reflects time-honored assumptions about the management of life that are more frequently validated by common sense than empirical science. So many things you learn from your intergenerational experiences, that your grandfather said so, that during the time of this thing you have to be like this, during the time of marriage you should be like this, during the time of conflict you should be. So many things, it is not written in the book, but still wisdom comes from the insight of human condition at that point of time, and they pass on this generation to the generation, subsequent generation. And so many proverbs that is very much that don't judge a book by its cover. Wisdom is the pinnacle of insight, and all such types of proverbs. How do we understand folk wisdom? It is always it is mentioned in the rhetorics, in the metaphors, in the poems, in the literature. So you describe this folk wisdom, what are the most important things, and you will find that okay, these are the strengths that has been. And Peterson and Seligman also identified the strengths and virtues that have appeared repeatedly in literature, poems and songs. So you understand that okay, these are the wisdom aspects that we need to be mindful. It includes open-mindedness, courage, kindness, fairness, and mercy. Then is a concept of forgiveness, a multidimensional process involving emotional, cognitive, motivational, and social features. So forgiveness, that whenever forgiveness involves empathy, compassion, and genuine desire for good. So you think that somebody has done a wrong, but you have this larger understanding, okay, I should forget. Or you are in a state of revenge. You are in a state of revenge, vicious cycle of venting, being angry and angry over the time. So if you forgive it, then so many positivity orientation is achieved, and pursuit of achievement, you can pursue your positive goals in a positive way. So I think these are the crux points that is that this whole and science, arts, and business of positive psychology deals with. Hope, optimism, resilience, self-efficacy. But these are not very unique concept that is not known to us in the Eastern psychology, particularly in Bhagavad Gita and Buddhism. You will find abundance of theory of positive psychology, but unfortunately we could not package our understanding in that way that it could get popular in this big manner. But positive psychology, at least I see so many repetitions and so many original knowledge that we have had in our positive traditions. Then people will talk of courage, wisdom, flow, all these things. I'm telling you, it is very much available in Indian social, ancient Indian social scriptures and texts. And these are theories of mindfulness and Gita theory of karma, theory of action. All these things are also very much related from Eastern, and how it relates to work-life balance, your individual balance, hope, optimism. And it is not a product reality. It has to be achieved in your day-to-day basis, into your progressive stages of life, in your contextual dimensions, in your social dimensions, in the cultural milieu. So it appears to be very simple, but it's a complex, and you all can do this. Thank you, Parul Bhuiya madam, and all the organizers for this. So I conclude here only. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
For your nice presentation. I'm going to take some questions from the chat box, 2 to 3 questions. The first question is, how can we improve resilience, empathy, gratitude, forgiveness? Please provide some suggestive measures which leads to happiness. Sir, please.
It's a good question. You can improve resilience. You can improve empathy. So if you are being very crude and being very arrogant and very unmindful, so you improve your level of awareness and mindfulness, and you try to see the multi-perspective of reality. Suppose you are very unhappy with your subordinate who is working under you or under your guidance, and you are very unhappy. But if you see the life lessons under which he or she is working, then only you will get that different perspective, and then that different perspectives may give you insight, so that and resilience. You see, you see the life stories of so many people, and those who have risen from deep, very rough circumstances, and they have reached to a very successful stage. So if you see the activities and the lives of all great people like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, or anybody, even in your own surrounding, in your own family members. So if it does not comes from theoretical orientation. It comes from resilience comes from failures, and again not accepting the failure, again trying. So resilience comes from the orientation and hardiness and willingness and commitment and determination. It's a complex process of everything. So it is not that only one factor will make you resilient and the other will not. So you have to incorporate so many positive traits in you, and that though I am not doing well, but I am committed to do well. So I will not be deterred by all these disturbances that is taking place. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Can we say that if our eyes see positivity, then we will move toward positivity, in spite of the fact that we are surrounded by negativity?
Can you repeat it? It's about
Can we say that if our eyes see positivity, then we will move towards positivity, in spite of the fact that we are surrounded by negativity?
yeah. So if our eyes see positivity, then yes, of course, indicator. But more than eyes, your actions should see positivity. So whatever is the environment, but if you are a micro element of that environment, you also constitute that negative environment. So negative environment is not coming from Mars. It is not coming from the moon. We are creating negative and positive environment. So you are also part of the we. And if you start changing yourself, at least you will change the uh, micro grammar of your family and micro sociology of the places that you are living with. So you are not existing as an individual, you are also existing at the level of society. So if you start seeing good and doing good both, so I think that will be better combination to follow with. Yeah.
There are lots of questions in the chat box. Better we will try to mail you the questions due to the time constraints, and the participants are also leaving the webinar.
I leave those answers to your own wisdom also. You can also respond to them. I have
Yes.
nothing very great to share with. Yeah, I've spoken what I had to.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now I'm switching the mic over to Parul ma'am or Daisy ma'am.
Sincere thanks and heartfelt gratitude to Honorable Dr. Naveen Kumar sir for your excellent speech on positive psychology. You have nicely elaborated about the area and origin of the positive psychology in national and international level of the pandemic society. It is indeed a very enriching and engaging speech. Thank you once again for more such discussion in near future. Really, it is very outstanding and very enlightening deliberation of your sir. Thank you, sir. And now we come to the last part of this webinar, that is vote of thanks. At first, we are grateful to respected precious person, Dr. Pranjal Buhagohai sir from Dibrugarh University, and respected Dr. Naveen Kumar sir from Delhi University. With their co in this webinar, we were able to gather great knowledge in this topic. Hope to meet this cooperation in near future. Then we will ever grateful to our honorable inaugurator, Mr. Purbaranjan Datta, Associate Professor, Department of Forcutting College, and for his continuous effort and guidance to successful of this webinar. We will also be grateful to our Secretary, Otitjo Esona, Dr. Amulya Kumar Bora sir, Associate Professor, Department of Political Science of Harkating College. So we offer heartfelt thanks to all the participants for his active cooperation in this webinar. We make it very fruitful and very successful. We offer our heartfelt thanks to Mr. Suraj Gogoi, coordinator of ISPA, and his associates from Naharkatia College. Last but not the least, we offer our special thanks to another coordinator, Dr. Dejirani Sukia from Korongi Mahavidyalaya, and Ms. Nirula Hazarika from Kamargaon College, and the creation of YouTube channel. We are grateful to all well wishers. Thanks once again. Over to ISPA. Hello.
Yes.
Hello,
Can you close the application?
yes, yes,
Okay.
Can we disconnect?
yes.